Welcome to the March meeting of the Starting Section Rochester Academy of Science. I'm Vice President Joel Schmid. Valerie's not here tonight because she is interviewing for jobs. I think she's in Texas. I'm not sure.
Texas.
Or Texas, yeah, okay. So she is trying to advance her career. So you're stuck with me tonight. Too bad.
Oh boy.
We'll get over it.
Yeah. All right, so first order of business is welcome. And as always, first order of the night is to welcome any new members or guests. Do we have any new members or guests tonight? If you could raise your hand. Lots of them up front. Okay, well, we won't make every single one of you stand up, but if one of you would like to stand up and for the rest and tell us who you are and how you heard of us, that'd be great.
So we're the NASA Hunch team at Fairport High School, and we heard about you guys because of the Rochester Maker Fair, and you guys wanted us to come and present. So we're here to discuss our experiment that we're going to have over April.
Oh, great. Welcome. Welcome. Okay, anyone else besides, that's not a member of the Hunch team? Okay, great. Glad to have you with us. Okay, first we'll do a little recap of all the things that we did to try to keep warm in February.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I hear that. So first up, we've got, we had our vacation week lobby days at the Strasbourg Planetarium. Looks like Carol and Joe, and who else was there? Don, were you there? Okay. Can you tell us a quick bit about how it went?
Don? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, it went fine.
Okay, good. That's what we want to hear.
There were a number of kids that came through all through the week. I was there for 2 days, and they came through. We had the usual little things. They like to color a lot, and so we had a bunch of things out there that they could color, everything.
We got 3 tables this year.
Yeah.
3 tables. Woo,
3 tables.
big time.
Yeah. The goal basically is, when all our shows were full, so that was good. It was a full day. The sun was out, so the weather, I'm sure, encouraged people to come out.
Okay.
And so as you're walking in, where you see those 2 kids there on the computer are those app links that Carol led them, and I forgot the professor. Is it Adam Frank? Okay. So they came up with these applets years ago, and the kids love them. And it talks about different astronomy-related fields and stuff. And there's this one where you can build your own solar system and watch planets crash and see how long they last. So the kids really got into that. So it's nice because we try to get all the age ranges. So you see the boys gravitate more toward the computer, and then the girls were doing. We had bingo, which was pretty popular, and prizes and everything. So it was a fun week. I took care of Monday. It was nice and met a lot of nice people. We had a couple talk about our club. They heard of us. They saw our website and everything. So you might see them at some future functions. So that was a fun week.
Great. Great. Glad to hear it. Okay, here's all of the volunteers we had during the Strasbourg Planetarium Week. So thank you all very much for your time. Providing all those wonderful experiences for the visitors.
We might make this addition there. We had some of the young astronomers come and help out at that time, and that was greatly appreciated, their participation in everything.
Okay. Yeah, we should try to get them to come out again next year. That sounds great. Thanks to all those kids for that too. Okay. Next up, we have some pretty exciting news. I'm sure most of you that remember last year we put a lot of time and effort into trying to capture images of Comet ISON. Well, it looks like it finally paid off because we got credit for being co-authors. The team here, you see it's highlighted, barely highlighted for us. All these folks here from SRAS are credited with the official research that's going to be published by the Comet ISON research campaign. Okay, I see Chris is a little busy. So, Chris, did you want to say anything about Comet ISON, or do you just want me to give a summary and move on?
Go for it. Go with it. Sorry, I was not paying attention.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. Basically, what we did is all the folks that you see there worked together to capture a whole bunch of images of Comet ISON over several weeks. We captured the images in the specific filters that the project was looking for. And when it was all done, our data was good enough to be accepted along with all the other folks that are on this list. I read through the report and I didn't really see any specific images that we took, but supposedly our images were contributed to the...
There were some that they specifically noted that were used both from my group and from the group that was taken at the Ferry Center.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read every word. I just kind of skimmed through it looking to see if I could recognize any of our images, but that's great. So this is very promising for the future because we're the program group is now involved in a new project for a satellite that they're sending out to Jupiter. What's the name of that project?
Juno.
Juno, right. And Dave's already taken some videos to get ready for it, practice for it. So if anyone is interested in contributing to that project, Leo is normally heading up the program group, but he's
Snowbird.
yeah, he's snowbird right now, the lucky dog. So while he's gone, you can speak to either Dave Vogel or myself, or Valerie if Valerie was here, and they can fill you in on what we're doing and how you can participate. It's a lot of fun, and you can see here that sometimes you'll actually get real scientific credit for being a part of that team, so that's great.
And the probe, Dawn, entered orbit around, or entered,
It is gone. It's dead. The comment?
no, the
We're talking about the Juno probe, Chris.
no,
Not Dawn.
Dawn.
The ion propulsion.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in orbit with, Sirius, yeah.
Oh, okay, when did that happen?
Just
Today.
Oh, just today? Oh, okay.
And there's like white spots popping up everywhere on it.
Oh, great.
Yeah, those two.
So maybe we weren't the first ones there, huh?
Yeah, maybe not. Okay, next we have our few shots from our open house on February 22nd. Despite this, I don't know, what is this, at least 8 feet of snow at the Ferris Center, everybody had a great time. We had lots of neat volcano demonstrations from the young astronomers. You can see one there, getting ready to blow its top. I had some robotics demonstrations by some of the Bradley kids, and I think one of the Mulvey kids had a little car also. That was a lot of fun. So even when we're freezing to death, we can still have fun down at the in Ionia down there. Bob, did you want to add anything to the past open house there?
No, we planned another open house, I believe, on the 22nd, and it will be coupled with the Young Astronomers event
So-
as well.
March 22nd?
Yeah, and we're pretty solid on that date. And the site is accessible. I mean, you can drive up and park, but take a shovel if you want to get to the buildings because it's 2 foot of snow everywhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can see, you can tell how deep it is right here. It was up to your knees. It's probably higher than that now, but I think it's going to melt some this week. But when we were there, see all this shoveling here? Mr. Dave Vogel did that, and he just about killed himself doing it. But it was fun to watch him. Let me tell you.
I scraped it off the top of the dome, too.
Yes, he did. Okay, next on our agenda is observing. So So I know that it's been way too cold at my house to get out and do any observing other than the icicles getting longer and longer. But anybody else get out and see anything? I looked out my window. Good for you, Myrna. Good for you. Did you see anything? Anybody else get a chance to see anything?
The sun looked nice today. There was a large prominence on the east side just coming into view.
Oh, great. At least somebody got to see something. Anybody else get to see anything?
Well, I think a lot of us seen the photo that Nick Mandola took of the picture of both.
Yeah, this was the conjunction. This was Mars and Venus and the Moon, right? Yeah. Nice shot there. Tom Kohler got a nice shot. Dorian got a nice shot. Brian got a nice shot. And Kevin got a nice shot of Jupiter. See, Dave, this is kind of what we need to get for
That's what it should look like. Thanks, Joe.
So those are some good shots there. At least somebody got to see something.
Is that some Earth glow?
What's that?
Earth glow.
Yeah, you're right. Yep, this is a, there's a nice earth shine on that one there that Nick captured. Very nice, very nice. Oh, this is great. I can walk around, not bend over this thing, killing my neck. Okay. Next we have our announcements. So first thing is membership renewal. If you haven't renewed your membership by now, you gotta get over and see Mr. Brzezinski. He'll hook you right up.
Yeah, also, Joel, if I could, if you haven't picked up your new name tag here, I'd like to let everyone take these home. They can be worn at outreach events or whatever else to come see me before you leave and grab your name tag.
Yeah, Chris made some really nice snazzy name tags for us. Different colors with our logo in the background and everything. Very nice. Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Okay, and of course, after membership renewal, we need to mention the key renewals for the Ferris Center. If you had a key in the past, I think his last date to renew is March 31st, and you're going to want to see Mr. McGovern for that. Bob, anything you want to add to the key renewals?
No, like I mentioned last time, they expire at the end of this month, and as soon as it gets a little warmer, we're going to rekey all the locks. So everyone that has a key will be issued a new key. There's, of course, no charge for that, but we have a lot of keys out there. We're going to rekey everything.
You're going to change the combination on the gate too, right, Bob?
And the combination of the
Well, that's a bummer, because I just memorized it. Now I got to memorize a new one.
We're getting older.
That's it.
Just give everybody your phone number.
Right.
Yeah.
If you can't remember the gate combination, just call Bob.
Call Bob.
Okay, now we can give a brief mention of upcoming things. First is our SRS Science Summer Camp. This will be our third one this year. The past two have been great, lots of fun. This year should be just as fun. We're going to have a new activity at this year's camp that you can start planning for now. We have a radio-controlled rover vehicle with a HD color camera mounted to it that I've converted from a little space toy. It's been upgraded to have a 2.4 gigahertz spread spectrum radio so that its range will go anywhere out in the Ferris Center. And we're going to set that up, and we're going to pretend that we've landed on another planet and take the kids through planning and driving a rover to see what kind of scientific things they can do. So we'll all be in the building. You can't see it. All you can see is what the camera on the rover can see, and we'll drive it, and we'll do real science with it. Lots of fun. Plus all the other fun things we do, like blow stuff up, and all kinds of stuff. Anything that Bob can cook up. Okay, some more upcoming events. A little closer to now. Our board meeting is this coming Monday at the U of R. Any member is welcome. Our next meeting will be April The 4/3, I'm not sure what that, anybody know what the first Friday in April, what's the date? Third, okay, it's gonna be the 3rd then. So Valerie must have put that because she wasn't sure, but it's gonna be the 3rd, right here at RIT, same room. And let's see, coming up the 28th of this month is Brian Orr's movie night. I think I saw Brian here. Brian, there he is. Brian, you wanna mention anything about your movie night?
Well, there's, of course, food and fellowship, but we're going to be comparing and contrasting Sagan and Tyson.
Okay.
And I just happened to dig out of my closet today a Star Wars Trivial Pursuit game, and maybe we could have some fun with it.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Great.
It's the classic trilogy, Star Wars,
Okay.
the good ones.
Good ones, really? Leonard Nimoy in there?
You want people to email you or
I'll be sending a notice out tomorrow or tomorrow night.
Okay, great. Okay, here's the March open house. At the time we put the slide together, we didn't know the date, but now we do. It's going to be March 22nd at our usual time, right, Bob? 12 to whatever.
Sunday?
Okay. There probably will be some snow left, so you could probably still go sledding. But hopefully most of it's melted so that we don't have to kill poor Dave again shoveling everything out. Okay, as always, we have our Saturday nights at the Straz when it's not too cold to kill you and not too many clouds so you can see something. Is Jim Sidewan here tonight? I didn't see. Nope, not here, but Jim Sidewan's the man for the Planetary Scope on Saturday nights. Don Chamberlain also helps him out once in a while, so if you want to volunteer or are interested in just coming out on a night when it's clear enough to see something, you could ask Don about that tonight or just shoot Jim Sidewan an email whenever you want, and he'll be glad to hook you up. He's always looking for help. All right, now with that, it's time for our short talk. I guess Mark Minerick is going to show us some interesting planetary nebulas, right, Mark? Stick it in your pocket one or on your belt.
I don't get that one.
You guys hear me okay? Okay, so tonight's talk short talk is about Planetary Nebula, at least that's the title of it, but I'm really an observational astronomer, amateur astronomer, very amateurish at that. But I wanted to make the case for Planetary Nebula. How many people are amateur observers? Primarily. All right, most of us. How many are not? There's a professor in the bunch. So I apologize for any inaccuracies I'm about to say to everybody tonight. So. And a lot of us do imaging and that kind of thing, but I wanted to make the case for Planetary Nebula being on your observation list when you go out. I know we all like to look at a lot of deep sky stuff. But first I want to give a little background. Originally Planetary Nebula were found, the first one was actually found by Charles Messier, and he only found it by accident because he was a comet hunter. And back in those days, comet hunters made good money. You got funding for finding stuff like that. And he found the first planetary nebula, not the first planetary nebula, but he was the first one to find one, realized it wasn't a comet. And then this picture that I brought here is actually the picture that Lord Rossi and his team put together, which, did everybody read that already? You know what that is? Dumbbell Nebula, yeah. That was the first of the planetary nebula in Messier's catalog. But after Messier, William Herschel was actually the guy that named them planetary nebula, and it's really because they kind of look planetary. When you look at deep sky, not so much deep sky, but solar system astronomy, when you find some of these deep planets, you guys, those of you who are observational, have probably seen Neptune or Uranus, and they appeared like blue, green, kind of faint disk, definitely not star-like. And these guys knew that they weren't exactly planets, so they call them planetary nebula. It's just the description that they gave of them. And actually, Herschel's son, John, named that dumbbell nebula the dumbbell, because you can see that kind of dumbbell shape kind of sitting vertically in it. Later on, William Huggins did some spectroscopy work, and we were doing some spectroscopy of stars, of nebula, and then eventually planetary nebula. And what they found was that stars had some very specific characteristics in their spectroscopy. You saw all this broad spectrum of stuff, and then you would see some gaps of stuff that wasn't in the spectrum. And then in the in nebula, they had very specific spectroscopy too. But in planetary nebula, there was not. There was very specific lines that they saw in the spectroscopy of planetary nebula. And I bring this up only because it applies to why it's an observational tool, observational goal to go after these. And the brightest of these was at a wavelength of 500.7 nanometers or 5,007 angstroms. And that's a very blue area, and it didn't line up for Huggins with any other element that was out there. They couldn't explain what that was, and so he named it. It was a new element. It was nebulum. Great name, right? Found in nebula, they called it nebulum. Well, I'll explain what that is in a minute. But first, I'll talk about how planetary nebula form. Really, planetary nebula is the death throes of a star, and up here you see kind of the layers, in layers, what happens to a star. We all see what happens to stars, and eventually the heaviest element that a star can make on its own is iron. And as a star is gradually decaying, or I shouldn't say decaying, as it's condensing itself, it goes all the way down to iron. But it is a gradual process. And it is this process where hydrogen fuses to helium, and it's at a very hot temperature at 10 to the 7th power Kelvin. And as the star gets heavier and heavier, it combines hydrogen to helium, helium to beryllium, beryllium with more helium, and it gets these heavier and heavier elements till you get to these carbon and oxygen, which in dying stars is the primary elements that you see in stars. Am I good so far, Dr. Bridgman? Okay, all right. I'm an amateur. So when you get to this point, a star lasts a long time at this period of carbon and hydrogen, or excuse me, carbon and oxygen as it's decaying, and it at that point, it's giving off a lot of high energy ultraviolet radiation, which is a very important wavelength, and it'll help us discover what this nebulum is. I put this chart out here really because I wanted to point out that carbon and oxygen are very close to each other in the periodic table. There's really only 2 protons difference between them. So with all the interactions that are going on in the stellar fusion, the difference between carbon and oxygen is not huge when it comes to all these collisions. So you see a lot of carbon and oxygen in these death throes of the stars. So what's this all about? So when a star is dying, it starts out as a normal star. This is ours. It's hydrogen converting it to helium. And helium being heavier kind of goes towards the center. It's the denser part of the star. As it goes further on, that helium and beryllium combine, and you start to get this carbon star. This is all for the animation. Is this cool or what? You get to this point where it's carbon and oxygen. I only put carbon in here, but it is carbon and oxygen, and it's releasing this ultraviolet radiation. And this radiation is affecting the oxygen and carbon, and especially the oxygen. And it creates this cloud. And as the star is dying, this heavy element condenses, and all this gas is all around it. The star actually gets smaller and condenses and has this cloud, which is this blue nebulum color, which is really oxygen. It's O3. that nebulum is really the energy level that is released when the ultraviolet rays hit the oxygen. It knocks out that electron 2 layers up, and then that layer, that atom comes back down, leaves the atom, the atomic oxygen, and gives you that blue color. And in fact, that's that blue color. This is actually an actual picture of the Turtle Nebula. That's pretty close to what you'd see visually if you were looking at it through a telescope. So here it is. If you look at the spectrum of Planetary Nebula, these are the colors that you'd see, just these colors. You don't see the whole star, you see these colors. Hydrogen beta, and then these two O3 spectral lines. And that biggest of the bunch is that 5007 angstrom line that Huggins saw, that was the nebula that he couldn't identify as another element, which is actually just double ionized oxygen. Now that's one kind of planetary nebula. That's a high energy planetary nebula. There are lower energy planetary nebula, and you'll see some other, here's your hydrogen beta and the 2 oxygen lines that line up with the ones on the prior page, but you'll also see some lower energy in the red spectrum. And in fact, the Ring Nebula has some of that too. If you look at the Ring Nebula, in fact, even images of it, you'll see some red, and same with the Helix Nebula, lower energy planetary nebula. So what's all the spectral info for? All that stuff. It's really for vision. And this is what's cool about the observation part of Planetary Nebula. We spend a lot of times as observational astronomers looking with averted vision to galaxies and some of the things in the sky. But you can actually, with many planetary nebula, you don't need to use the averted vision. In fact, you should use both averted vision and looking straight at it, because the cones in your eyes pick up color, and they actually pick up color right in that same area that planetary nebula give you all that color. It's some of the best things you can see in the sky are the color that you see in planetary nebula, instead of the grays and the subtleties of galaxies and some of the globular clusters and star stuff. You can actually see the color in planetary nebula because our eyes are actually geared for that. They're perfect for that range. Now you can still use averted vision. You can still see details of some of that cloud that's around that nebula. But certainly you can also look straight at it, which is why some nebulae actually blink. You'll actually see color, or sometimes it'll completely disappear. And then you look away and it'll come back in full color again. So I present to you, and I'll give this to Joel to put on our website, a catalog, not a whole catalog, but probably a half a dozen or so planetary nebula. I have the what do you call that red thing?
Telrad.
Telrad, thank you. Lost for words. I have the Telrad charts for these. Grab this presentation, take it with you the next time you go out, and look for some planetary nebula. So here's the Cat's Eye Nebula, one of my favorites, up in the northern sky. That's a photo, and it would look a lot like that photo through high power. Here's the Turtle Nebula. Turtle Nebula up in Hercules. So this summer, put that on your target list. Here's the Eskimo Nebula. You can go outside right now and go look at the Eskimo Nebula if it's clear. Right against the constellation Gemini. It's really easy to look at. You see Castor and Pollux and all the stars go down the side. You line your Telrad right up with that second star, and you'll be right on top of the Eskimo Nebula. I took that picture last winter. And then the blue snowball, best in the that's right by Pegasus near Andromeda. That one's difficult. You can see there's not a lot of stars around it, so there's a big empty sky where that Telrad is. And then the Saturn Nebula, another one for the summer or late spring, right above Capricorn. That was pretty easy to find, just pushing your scope after that one. I took the picture of that one last fall. And it looks just like that to your eyes. Really, it's that blue color. And this will work. Last thing I wanted to show you was just an animation of that whole explanation I just gave you on the formation of Planetary Nebulae. This is right on YouTube. Of all the gases coming off of this star, and then being excited by the ultraviolet rays. The star collapses, and it sends out even higher radiation waves. And this is a great demonstration of a low energy planetary nebula. This is the Helix Nebula. That's all I have. Any questions for me?
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
In one of your earlier spectral charts, it showed two O3 lines, and one of them said saturated. What's the difference between the saturated one and the not saturated one?
That's a great question.
Oh.
Looked to me like it was flat at the top, like it had saturated the spectrometer.
Yeah, right there.
Right there.
They're separated by...
They're separated by
Why is there two?
by about 50 angstroms.
Yeah, why? Anybody know why that does it?
I do not know that.
Dr. Richmond, you know why it does it?
It has to do with the energy levels inside a doubly ionized oxygen atom. That electrons jump down from one energy level to another. There are two energy levels that are really close together, and you're seeing there electrons that jump down from one or from the other. They emit photons with almost exactly the same energy, so they have almost exactly the same wavelength.
So are there two electrons in that shell? Is that what you're saying?
There are many energy levels in the oxygen atom,
Yeah.
and there happen to be two that just fall close together.
Okay. Yes.
So why did, on the, I'm sorry, I face palm in front of this, but
Okay.
on the granulation process chart thing, you had a star that was going to iron.
Yes.
Isn't that a supernova, not a?
Well, what I was showing, what I was showing you here was what a star would, the stages of the elements that a star could go to.
I'm sorry, I was
Yeah,
just being.
and it could go all the way to silicon, iron, all that. And that would be, you're right, that would be a supernova. It would get to a supernova after it got to that point. If it had enough mass, it would supernova. But the stars that turn into planetary nebula is probably a good point to make. Well, they don't have enough mass to go to nova or supernova, but they do collapse. They leave off this, they shut off all this gas, and then they illuminate it with the ultraviolet rays. And many times you get these planetary nebulae, and there's hundreds of them. There's hundreds of them. I gave you a handful to look at, but I would encourage everybody to explore what other ones are out there. Any other questions? Peter?
Art, do you know why the Ring Nebula, for example, has such a distinct outer border visually? I mean, it seems to be
And
more
it's
concentrated
a
around the ring.
it's a perfect ring. No idea. And a lot of that's a good question for lots of planetary nebulae. There's some that look like two cones that came out from side to side. It has a lot to do with the weight of the star and just the size of the star and some combination of the
The Ring
two.
Nebula seems to have that dense line right around it.
Looks like a smoke ring, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes?
I think it's also has to do with the axis of the star.
Yeah.
We've seen a polar view or we've seen an equatorial view.
That's a great point. We're probably looking at a polar view, you think, of the Ring Nebula?
I think the planetary nebula is like looking down a tube. Just
Pardon me?
having- I think the Ring Nebula is set up like a
Like a
paper
tube?
towel roll.
Yeah.
We're just looking at it.
Right down, looking right down the
right
tube.
down the barrel, yeah.
Yes?
Do you have, how big a telescope do you have to use to actually see color with your eyeball?
You can see color with a 3-inch refractor. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
You don't have to drink
No.
something.
Well, you probably would.
I would suggest like the Saturn Nebula or the Cat's Eye. You can see color with a 3-inch refractor, an 8-inch Spitcaster grade, you can see lots of color.
The blue snowball, you can definitely see the
Yep.
color on that one.
Yeah,
Why
the
they
cat
call it
size
the blue
pretty green.
snowball.
Cat's eye's really green, the blue snowball is really blue. It's kind of interesting.
It's, if you don't have, you're colorblind.
If you know what?
As long as you're not colorblind.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
See, I'm got macular degeneration, and in order for me to see anything like that, I don't know if anybody else has, but it's like a dead zone in the middle of your eye.
Yep.
So in order for me to see anything like that, I have to keep my eye moving back and forth. And a lot of times if you do that, you'll be able to see different colors. So it's not only because from macular degeneration, everybody ought to try just moving your eyes back and forth while you're looking in the scope, and you might see a little bit more than what you are actually focusing on.
Cool. Anything else? Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.